As realtors, we have new rules and we have new opportunities. When I take this opportunity to talk you through some of what's going on in the industry, what are we looking at, what's next, all of the things. First of all, I wanted to introduce myself. I am Katrina, the General Manager of Keller Williams Gateway. We have 3 offices in the state of Maryland: Bel Air, Canton, and White Marsh. And who am I? I have a background in business, nonprofit, government. I entered the world of real estate in 2013, and like many of you, didn't have any idea what I was getting into. And I've walked in each one of your shoes, whether it be an agent, administrative, or brokerage leadership. I'm a mega nerd, and I pride myself on being an encyclopedia of information, useful and totally useless. By the way, I don't know if you know this, but if you eat a banana, it's 2 fruits for the day on the food pyramid. Useless. I'm here to really learn and to share with you what I learn. If I don't know the answer, I'll find it. My agents are my priority. Agents in general, our industry, I'm passionate about it. I'm passionate about growth in others and helping people to do more. I like long walks, preferably in the woods rather than on the beach. And I've been married to my smoking hot husband, Jason, for 15 years, and I have 3 beautiful children. We're in a whole new world, realtors, a dazzling place you never knew, and I can show you the new world. In fact, I think that we can go there together. But first, I want to go through some mindset pieces. These are called the 6 personal perspectives, simple ideas for how we can keep our mindset and our heads right. So the first thing has to do with mastery. First, we should seek to master ourselves. Who am I and how am I wired? What am I going to be and how can I master that? And then we decide to master something. I hope that everyone who's watching this has chosen to master real estate and being the best possible agent they can for the agents. Or no, their clients, sorry, for their clients. The 80-20 rule is that 80% of our results come from 20% of our efforts. It doesn't matter how our industry changes, the 20% remains the same. It's lead generation, lead follow-up, learning, appointments, negotiation, and really that's about it. That's the top 20%. Those are the things that make us the most money. Focus on those things and you'll be fine. Learning is in that top 20%. So you're here, you're listening to this, you are already in your top 20. E to P. This is an interesting one of my favorites, going from entrepreneurial to purposeful. All of us have ceilings of achievement. You and I share one ceiling achievement that is the same, and that's that there are 24 hours in the day. That's where our ceilings end. All of us have different ceilings, and we butt our heads up against that. In general, if you're feeling that you're getting frustrated, you're feeling like I'm dropping balls, things are going the way that I want them to do, I'm frustrated all the time, it's probably indication that you're hitting a ceiling of achievement. In order to break through the ceiling, you really need to become purposeful. Go from what comes naturally, what I can keep in my head, what I can do naturally, to what comes unnaturally, what's purposeful. And we do that through focus, strategic options, models, systems, and accountability. Everyone in the real estate industry is going to be hitting their heads up against a ceiling soon because our whole world has changed and we all need to figure out how to break through that ceiling. Otherwise, we're going to be the ones going off into greener pastures. Being learning based. There is knowing for knowing's sake, and then there's knowing for doing's sake. We want to be the kind of people who know for doing's sake, so that we can go out there and we can do more and we can be better servants to our people. We all know those people in the real estate industry whose email signature has all of the letters behind it, and yet they don't sell any houses. Those are the kind of people who know for knowing's sake, and we really want to be able to do more, know more, so that we can do more. Unlimiting beliefs. I'm hearing a lot of limiting beliefs going around about our current industry, what's going on, and what you really want to do is focus on the unlimiting beliefs. What are the things? If you think it can't be done, it can. It can. We just watched the Olympics and we saw Simone Biles, who broke the rules of physics, the whole rules of our world and what we thought a human body could do. Kate Ledecky, I don't know if you saw her swimming, where she finished so far in advance of everyone else. With the camera angle, you wondered if there was anyone else in the pool. Anything that has been done at one point, somebody thought could not be done. We can be the first to do it. Finally, victim versus accountable. This is one of my favorites because it's really got very simple things spelled out for you to see how somebody who's a victim versus somebody who's accountable. Somebody who's a victim doesn't ask any questions. This is one of the things that I hear a lot is I'm waiting on the lender. Nobody told me. I did my part. I'm waiting for somebody else. And honestly, in this world, if it's to be, it's up to me. I need to be accountable and not a victim. So first, before we kind of dive into the NAR things, I want to give a little bit of an example of why we are where we are and the difference between collaboration and collusion. Many of the people who are watching this there's a good chance that you are not agents of my particular brokerage. And there are rules when it comes to brokerages. So collaboration is the act or process of working together and cooperating. That is allowed. We are allowed to do that. Collusion is a secret understanding between two or more persons to gain something illegally, to defraud someone's rights, or to appear as adversaries, though in agreement. This is why we are where we are. This is why the problems that we are having, the lawsuit happened, is because whether or not it was intentional, the lawmakers, the judge in Missouri has said is that realtors were colluding together specifically around the topic of compensation. That's not okay. So there's certain things that we're going to talk about, things that we're not going to talk about. I'm not going to, the conversation that I'm having here, the way that I'm speaking about it is different than I would if I was having a conversation simply with people, individuals within my brokerage, because we can have different conversations if we are in the same brokerage or we are not. So what do we not talk about? We don't talk about Bruno. We don't talk about percentages. We don't talk about industry standards. We don't talk about common practice, standard amounts, scripts, and we don't talk about Fight Club. I really want to reiterate that a lot of these things that we have said, people have said, well, it's common practice for a seller to compensate the buyer agent. Industry standard is X amount. These things are a big part of the reason why the lawsuit was lost and we are where we are. So these are things that we should not be talking about among brokerages. And the first rule of Fight Club is we don't talk about Fight Club. All of us are really going through the 5 stages of grief. So you're somewhere in this spectrum of 5 stages. First is denial. I'm just going to keep doing things the same way. There are a lot of agents who are in this boat. In fact, there are a lot of brokerages that are in this boat who feel like we got to figure out how to keep things the same as they always have been. Guys, it's not going to stay the same. And assuming that you can find a way for it to be the same it's short-sighted and it's not to your benefit or to the benefit of your clients. Anger. National Association of Realtors is supposed to represent us. What are they doing? I don't like the way that this panned out. I'm sure that there are many people throughout the country who agree with the settlement, who think that it is the absolute best possible solution. I wasn't in the rooms. I wasn't in the negotiations. I wasn't in the conversations about the settlement. So I can't tell you if this actually was the best possible outcome. I can tell you I don't like it. And I've been mad off and on about how this has gone and how it's affecting our industry. The bottom line is it doesn't matter. What is, and my anger does nothing to change it. So then there's bargaining. Can we still appeal? The answer is no. The answer is we've settled. There's no appeal of this particular process. Now, the good news is there's still so many moving parts here that there is a decent chance that the rules will change again. Whether they'll change in a way that we like them or not remains to be seen. However, these are the rules that we have right now, and we cannot appeal these ones. So maybe I should just quit and sell feet pics. I don't think any of the people in this photo should sell feet pics. Those are some pretty jacked up feet. And there's a lot of folks who are thinking, do I want to stay in? The answer is maybe you don't. Maybe you want to get out of the real estate industry because the changes are not something that you're willing or something you're willing or able to deal with. That's okay, guys. It's okay to not want to deal with it. It's okay to feel like the cheese has moved and I no longer want to be here. And then acceptance. Liking it ain't a requirement of doing it. You don't have to like doing it. You just have to do it. The rules are what the rules are. It's kind of like when I tell my kids to clean the room. They don't like it, but they got to do it. Y'all got to follow the rules if you want to keep your real estate licenses and be without fines. Our industry over time has evolved. Evolution is a process of gradual, peaceful, progressive change or development, as in social or economic structures or institutions. Change is to make the form, nature, content, future course, etc., of something different from what it is or from what it would be if left alone. Guys, our industry has evolved over the years. We have not seen it change like this. I don't know if we ever have. One might argue that in the Great Recession, the 2008-2009 era, that our industry changed. And I would actually argue that the lending industry went from evolving to changing, and that change impacted us. However, the rules of the game, the way that we played, did not change. Just an external factor made it so that it affected us. And because of that, really, we are in a shift in our industry. What the book Shift was written about a shift from a seller's market to a buyer's market, et cetera, but really many of the same principles apply. There are three types of people who emerge when a market shifts. First, those who fearfully predict the worst and are unnecessarily pessimistic. Second, those who hopefully wish for the best, believe they can't fail, and are unrealistically positive. And third, those who respect the fact that they might fail, actively prepare for the worst, and strive for the best. These are the resourcefully realistic and are always the timely triumphant. They are matter of fact about the market and sensible about their situation. They see things as they are and openly acknowledge how they're doing. At the same time, they stay optimistic about their opportunities. As my friend Zig Ziglar says, they do a checkup from the neck up and make sure that even though the market is reshaping itself, it isn't reshaping their attitude. Guys, so much has to do with how we react to what's going on. It's not about what's happening to us. It's about how we react to it. And it's so important that we get that right. So what hasn't changed? Realtors are still necessary. The home buying and selling process is complicated. While some will believe they can have it on their own, many will not wish to do so. We've had unrepresented buyers in the past. We have had for sale by owner sellers in the past. There's not the idea that a general consumer believes that they can navigate the real estate process without somebody representing them is not a new one. I think there will be more of them. However, I think there are plenty of people who understand that having a representative is needed and absolutely necessary for them to be able to really handle their biggest investment for many people. We eat what we kill. We're realtors. We work on a commission basis. We still will. It's just going to be harder hunting. I was in Canada last week and we were talking about bears, and bears hibernate in the winter, not because it's cold, but because the food sources go away and they need to survive. We all need to make sure that we are battening down the hatches. It's going to be a little harder for a bit until we figure all of this out. It's going to be harder hunting, so you're going to have to spend more hours hunting, more time, and you're going to have to adjust your budgets accordingly. Maryland has us covered. Maryland's forms were already sufficient. If the lawsuit had been filed in the state of Maryland, I really don't think that it would have gone the way that it went. However, it was not filed in Maryland. It was filed in Missouri, and Maryland has reacted and created new forms, revised forms to create more coverage and more transparency. We retain a fiduciary duty to our clients, and this is what I think is so key. A fiduciary is a person to whom property or power is entrusted for the benefit of the owner. Duty is the binding or obligatory force of something that is morally or legally right, moral or a legal obligation. We have the obligation to our clients to act to their benefit. Now, we only represent one client, and our fiduciary duty in each transaction is to that client. If you're representing the seller, your duty is to that seller. If you're representing the buyer, it is to that buyer. Your fiduciary duty is not to yourself. It's not to your brokerage. It's not to your family. Your fiduciary duty is to your client. Now, we have a code of ethics and we have duties that we have as a realtor that are also important. But at the end of the day, we are doing what is best for our clients. Our compass hasn't changed. This is a Keller Williams belief system. However, it really is a compass that I think should guide the entire industry. Win-win or no deal, integrity, do the right thing. Customers always come first, commitment, all things, communication, seek first to understand, creativity, ideas before results, teamwork, together everyone achieves more, trust starts with honesty, equity, opportunities for all, and success results through people. So what has changed? The rules, the forms, the best practices, and the police. The rules, buyer agency. You must get a buyer agency signed before showing a property. If you do not, you will likely not get paid on that property. I don't care what Zillow, Redfin, or Realtor.com says. I'm going to just pause on there for a minute. These sources and several others have always had a policy that if you receive leads from that source, that they do not want you to ask the buyer to sign buyer agency. They want you to get something else signed. The fact is that you can do that, and that something else is unlikely to hold up in a court of law if you are to go after the buyer for compensation. So if you want your compensation to be paid, get buyer agency signed. Subagents cannot be converted to buyer agents after the showing. If you show the property as a subagent, you may or may not be entitled to compensation based upon the forms that the seller has provided. However, it is no longer in order for you to represent the buyer directly, you need to have buyer agency signed prior to the showing. What about open houses? When you're holding an open house, you are representing the seller. It is not considered a showing if a buyer walks in. And best practice really is to, if you have a buyer who sees it at the open house, Schedule an appointment with them after the open house, get a buyer agency signed, come back and see the house. Because when you're doing the open house, you're representing the seller. You're not pointing out things that, that you might point out to the buyer, because it is your goal in that open house to represent the seller. And if you are now outside of the open house, you're representing the buyer, looking at that home with a critical eye and making sure that they're making the best possible decision for them, because now your fiduciary duty is to your buyer, because there is buyer agency signed. Buyer agency compensation must be spelled out. You can receive less, not more than what is in your agreement. So when I say it's spelled out, it should be exactly what you expect to receive. It can't be a range. It can't be an up to. It can't be a not to exceed, all of those things. You can receive less than what is in your buyer agency. It is your duty to determine in advance if the seller is offering cooperative compensation. You can negotiate on behalf of your buyer for the seller to compensate more than they initially chose to do so. Whatever the seller isn't covering, the buyer must cover, or you can choose to waive that. The VA has temporarily lifted its restriction on VA buyers paying compensation. More to come on that, on exactly what that will look like. And you can't steer a buyer away from houses that are not offering cooperative compensation. That simply means that you need to make sure that if you are showing them searches, et cetera, you are not ruling out homes that are not offering cooperative compensation. Listing agreements, the rules when it comes to listing agreements haven't really changed. The forms and the MLS have changed. Stay tuned for more on that later in the presentation. The MLS, we now have a concession field. It says yes or no. Is your seller willing to entertain requests for concessions? My opinion, that is in most cases, the answer is going to be yes, that it's a term of the offer to be negotiated, and the seller is happy to have that to be a term that is negotiated. That is not saying that they will offer concessions. It's saying that they will consider them. Can also put a specific amount. This, I feel like, is really designed for those situations where perhaps the seller knows that they should replace the carpet, and they simply don't want to move they're still living there. They don't want to move all of their things. So they offer a credit to the buyer for carpet, knowing that that's something that should be done to the home, those kinds of things for specific amounts. There are fields to allocate what it went to at closing, what went to closing costs, what went to repairs, what went to compensation, what went to lender's fees, et cetera. Do not use this field for compensation. I've heard a lot of folks saying, well, the concession field is there. I will just put my whatever I would have offered as compensation in as a concession, because a concession can be used for realtor fees. It can be used for compensation. That is not what this field is designed for. And I'm pretty confident that Bright will probably start finding people for doing that. If all of your listings show the same number in concessions, it's really what landed us here in the first place, is what felt like very blanket same numbers for a lot of people, and that is in the MLS. Don't do it. And Bright may very well remove the concession field completely if this is what's happening. If people are using it in lieu of compensation, Bright has made it clear that they will just remove the field, so that eliminates that. Compensation, that field is being removed. Nothing regarding compensation can be on the MLS. Nothing regarding compensation can be on an aggregated website. Nothing regarding compensation can be in the remarks. Nothing regarding compensation can be in the disclosures. Nothing regarding compensation can be in the photos. Nothing regarding compensation can be hidden in an Easter egg, even if your name is Mike Maxwell. This is funny because they all make fun of me for being the hammer and making sure that they follow the rules at my brokerage. And Mike posted this in our group. The truth is, this is actually allowed. You just can't put this picture in the MLS. So this is where anything in the MLS related compensation cannot be mentioned. Now, where can you put it? We'll talk about that more later. The forms. So if you want to scan this is another video that I've made that is about the new forms, the revised forms, temporary forms, and the Bright forms. The big one that I just want to talk about for just a minute is the listing broker's offer of cooperative compensation. This is a form that will be filled out at the time of the listing agreement of what is the seller willing to offer as compensation from Jump Street. Not a part of the negotiation, but it's already in there. This is the form that you will have filled out, and this is the form that as a buyer's agent, you want to have in your hand prior to showing the property, so you know exactly what is offered as compensation. We'll talk about it a little bit more throughout the process as well. So best practices for buyers. Get your buyer agency signed every time. By the way, guys, it's been best practice in the state of Maryland for over 10 years. Y'all just got lazy. Don't be lazy. Do the right thing. But what if they don't want to sign it? How do you know they don't want to sign it? I cannot tell you how many times I see people put objections in the mouths of clients and other people. They assume that somebody doesn't want to do something without actually asking the question. If they do object, you can always make the buyer agency agreement be for one day, one property, etc. Or you don't show it. If they won't sign this document, even just for one day, for one showing, do you really want to work with that buyer? Is that somebody that you want to work with? And don't be the jerk that doesn't follow the rules. Maybe you're not going to get caught, but you're going to make the whole world harder for the rest of us if you do. If a buyer says to you, I've never had to sign this before, it's really simple to say the rules were different before. The rules have changed. Best practices for sellers. Be sure to explain the listing agreement, specifically compensation at length. This is another big area of why we ended up where we are, because a lot of sellers, a lot of agents didn't explain to their sellers what was going on and that they had a choice and that things were negotiable. Things are negotiable. And I can absolutely navigate this well if we are having clear conversations with our sellers. You can include compensation everywhere but the MLS, on a sign writer, on a keychain, on a flyer, an email, on social media, your brokerage website. This is how this is exactly going to happen on most brokerage websites is TBD still, and the disclosures, but the disclosure is not uploaded to the MLS. So one of the things that I'm personally going to start doing is create an email address, disclosures at abcrealty.com, that kind of a thing, and put in the MLS a one pager that says for disclosures, please go to disclosures at abcrealty.com. And then in that email address, it will have an auto response with a link to a Google Drive folder that has all of the disclosures, including the seller offer of cooperative compensation. This seems to be something that is permitted and allowed. And again, if that changes, I reserve the right to revoke the statement, but that seems to be permitted. And our hope is that that will eliminate some of the back and forth. And also, agent emails me or calls, etc. I can tell them to email that email address. That way, if I'm in the car or whatever, I don't have to go find the disclosures for that property and send it to them. They can just email disclosures at abcrealty.com. And that will be sufficient. Am I a jerk if my seller does not want to offer cooperative compensation? Yes, if you have not fully explained all of the options to seller, along with the repercussions of every choice. This is the key thing, guys. It is our job to help our sellers make the best decisions for them. And so, no, you are not a jerk if you and your seller have developed a strategy that you're both confident is in their best interest. Let's say, for instance, that you are the listing is in a neighborhood that listings are flying off the shelf. You know that unless something has changed in the last week, that property is likely to sell with multiple offers. And what your seller really wants to do is to have compensation be one of the terms of the offer. Somebody might have inspections, somebody might not. Somebody might have concessions, somebody might not. Somebody has compensation, somebody might not. There may be a world where what is best for your seller is not to offer cooperative compensation to a buyer's agent from Jump Street. Now, we all know the opposite side where we want to cooperate with other agents and we want to open up the pool to every single buyer. If you are representing a house that is likely to be a first-time home buyer, many of whom do not have the funds to compensate their agent, and you want to make sure that you are opening up the pool to all of those, it is likely in your seller's best interest to offer cooperating compensation from the beginning. The key is it's about a conversation between you and your seller so that they understand their options. They understand the repercussions of each option, and they make a decision based upon the fact that they have all of the information. They make an informed decision that they and you believe is in their best interest because you are exercising your fiduciary duty. This is where real estate agents are going to be separated from real estate professionals, people who know their stuff, who understand what's going on, who have done their due diligence, who have done their research, who know how to navigate the real estate transaction at a high level. You really need to become an expert at all things real estate. If you've made it this far in this presentation, you are one of those people who's seeking to become an expert. Consults, buyer consults, listing consults have always been critical. They're even more critical now. People who say, well, I just meet the person at the property, and then we go through, and when we're ready to write an offer, then I have them sign an agency agreement. Those days are no more, guys. We really need to learn how to create and how to communicate value at a high level. We have a lot of value. we can always up our game, and we can always do a better job of communicating that to our clients. So that's now a plug for a class that we have coming up in 2 weeks here at Keller Williams Gateway at our White Marsh location. Value Squared. An incredible friend of mine by the name of John Newman sold a lot of houses. He's coming in to teach that class for us. And it's really about how to create and articulate your value to clients so that when you present them that agency agreement that talks about how you get compensated, there's no question whatsoever that you are worth that compensation. So who's the police? The settlement put the burden of ensuring the rules are followed on the MLS organization. So in our case, Bright. Rumor has it that they may have even hired people to start perusing new listings for violations, and that they've outsourced the fines to attorneys' offices. Guys, they will fine you if they find a violation. Don't try to get around it. Don't try to put something in the pictures that says that. Don't put some ambiguous remarks that people can read into to know that what the compensation is. Don't do it. Just follow the rules. There are ways for you to communicate it. Is it going to take a little bit more work? Yes. Is it worth not getting a fine? Also, yes. So what the heck do I do now? What's going to come? This is not happening to you. It's happening for you. The idea that this is being thrust upon us is really a victim mentality. It's a terrible thing. The fact is that change is good. A shakeup is good. It allows the people who are great to be even greater, and it allows the people who are mediocre to go find something that they're great at. In the book Shift on page 14, it talks about this, the difference between available income and the number of agents. And right now, if you look at that survive line, where it's the highest number of agents and the lowest amount of available income, that's really where we are. We have too many agents. For a long time, I said there's plenty of pieces of pie for us all to eat. The truth is right now, there's not. If you look at historically, 2000 through 2007, the industry added 591,000 agents. And then in the 4 years that followed, we lost 338,000. So of those that were added, 42% we lost. The numbers look eerily similar from the last 10 years. 581,000 agents, and that doesn't include 2024 data at all. We've added a lot of agents, and we will lose agents. The thing is that last time, the ones who survived were the experts. That drop in agent count had nothing to do with people getting in. It had to do with more people who got out. When fish are jumping in the boat, it's easy to consider yourself a fisherman. But when there's slim pickings and you got to go out further into the ocean and you got to revise your techniques and you got to start doing things differently, there's a lot of people who will bow out. And again, that's okay. If you're one of the people who says, this is harder than I want it to be, I can go work for the government that has full benefits and a paycheck and every 2 weeks, and I don't have to worry about how my bills are getting paid, that is okay. An industry where you eat what you kill is a challenging one, and we are in especially challenging times with this. How do I survive? If you want to be one of those people who does make it, how do you survive? Number one, focus on your mindset. Your head is the biggest thing. Your biggest challenge is right between my hands. Right between your ears is your biggest challenge. Focus on your mindset. Double down on your numbers and your activities. We talk about leading indicators. These are the things that we can control. Your lead generation, your leads, your consults, your agencies. Those are the important things to start tracking because you can control that. I can control how much time I spend on lead generation and getting more leads, having more consults, having more agencies, understanding my conversion rates. It may take more leads to get to closings now, so I need to double down on that lead generation piece. My lagging indicators are contracts, closings, and profit. And I want to make sure that I'm still tracking those as well, that I am knowing where those things come from and knowing that what the profit I'm making today is based upon the lead generation that I did 90 to 120 days ago, or maybe even further back. Got to keep on that lead generation to make sure that you're hitting those metrics. Manage your expenses, personal and professional. Unfortunately, I know a lot of agents who in 2020, 2021, when interest rates were low and everybody was selling houses, you get a house, you get a house, you get a house. In those years, there were a lot of people who upped their lifestyle. And as the industry has changed and their income has gone down, they haven't updated their personal expenses to reflect the business income. It's really important that you make sure that you are not cannibalizing your business for your personal life. These people are individuals who stopped doing marketing, stopped doing lead generation so that they could take their family on a cruise this year that they wanted to take and they were able to take 4 years ago, and the income does not support it now. Get on the same page with your family, get on the same page on your business, and visit your numbers regularly. Become an expert. Know your market, know your value, and know your objection handlers. You know that you're going to get objections. People are going to ask questions. And how do you answer those questions in a way that they are assured that you are the best person to be their fiduciary? Care more than anyone else. The unknown is scary for buyers and sellers too. In general, people who are selling a house or are buying a house right now haven't ever dealt with this landscape either. They don't know what's going on. The first-time home buyer who was told for so many years that they were going to have to come out of pocket to pay their agent is wondering, am I ever going to be able to buy a house? The seller who has a low interest rate and is thinking about selling and navigating to buy side, they're like, am I going to end up having to pay 3 compensations? Compensation for you to list my house, compensation for an agent when they bring a buyer, and compensation when I purchase a house. That's a lot. You need to care about them, who they are, what their goals are, what they're looking to do. Get creative. This is where you follow the rules, you know what the rules are, and then get creative elsewhere. What got you here isn't going to get you there. What made you successful to date is not what's going to make you successful in the next 12, 24, 36 months. Go out, get creative, do some new things. Get humble. Pride cometh before the fall. There's a great book called How the Mighty Fall by Jim Collins, and it really talks a lot about this and how there's the unfettered pursuit of more that has to do with a lot of pride. There's so much pride in our industry and so much pride in individuals, and those are often the people who you think that they're doing fantastic, and really they're bankrupt. They might be doing a lot of transactions, but their expenses and their life is out of control. So get humble. If you need help, ask. I'm happy to sit down with any of you and talk about your business, talk about your profit and loss statement, talk about your lead generation plan. Where are you and where do you want to go and how do you get there? You got to be able to ask for help. Evaluate your surroundings. Where are you? Are you in the right environment? We're going into a hurricane. We're in a hurricane. I know we've got right now, as I speak, a Hurricane Debbie's coming up the coast. And I don't know about you all, but if I'm in a hurricane, I want to be on a cruise ship. I could be on a speedboat. The speedboat sounds great in many times, but a cruise ship is where I want to be. And the cruise ships are the companies, the brokerages that have withstood storms before, that have models, systems, and tools that really can help guide you through. And a cruise ship is just more fun. And surround yourself with the right people. Show me your friends and I'll show you your future. If you are surrounding yourself by other agents who are complaining all of the time, you likely will have that same mindset. If you're in rooms with people who are thinking about how can I do more? How can I be better? How can I grow? Those are the kinds of rooms that when you're in them, will ensure your future stability, your future success. All right, so that is the end of the presentation. My information is here. If you have any questions, if you are looking for some coaching, some training, etc. I'm the general manager of Keller Williams Gateway with locations in Bel Air, White Marsh, and Canton, Maryland. And I look forward to, if I haven't met you before, to meeting you in the future.